That is Drifter. Now, Drifter made a video the other day. I'm going to have to move my camera for this one, I believe. And he made a video, and it was called Black Ops 3 is simply the best Call of Duty. That's it. And it's a take that I don't necessarily disagree with, but I'm curious to hear his reasoning. So I feel like this is an interesting one to start the stream with. Paid shill, definitely. Okay, the one thing, like, this is one comment that I get on YouTube all the time, paid shill. There has been, like, to my knowledge, like 10, maybe 20 people that have ever been paid by Call of Duty. Most of them are not people who make Call of Duty videos. Like, we're talking like Ninja, for example. I believe, of course, Tim the Tatman has been paid. He is one that plays Call of Duty. I'm pretty sure Pastilli just got paid by Call of Duty for Black Ops 6. So it's people who don't normally make Call of Duty videos who get paid to make a video on Call of Duty. People who normally make Call of Duty videos don't get paid to. I never have, not once. I would love to. Call of Duty, if you'd like to pay me, I'm in. But this is an old game. I like Black Ops 3. So this is an interesting one. Shroud might have. I would assume that actually Shroud has. But I don't know that, so I can't. Allegedly. All right, let's see what Drifter's saying.
The idea, because I just watched the reveal for Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which is so far looking quite good. However,
Agreed.
Seeing the number 6 in a Call of Duty game, especially a sub-franchise that doesn't even come out every year, got me thinking about how long I've been playing this franchise.
Long time.
As it turns out, I've played every single Call of Duty game over the last 20 years, and I started thinking about, among the last 20, which one was the absolute best? Which one did I enjoy? Which
He's
one
gonna
I think had the
see. This is gonna be interesting because if I was guessing, I would guess Drifter would say Black Ops 2, but
best quality. I know that most people would probably say that Modern Warfare 2 is the best Call of Duty game ever made, and maybe a barely smaller group would say Black Ops 2. There's a bunch of fans of Warzone 1, which was great, and a surprising number of Call of Duty Ghosts stands out there. But for
I don't think there's a ton of Call of Duty Ghost multiplayer fans. Campaign, yes.
I think there's only one Call of Duty game that stands at the absolute pinnacle of what COD should be, and that game is Black Ops 3. So today, I'm going to explain why I
love Black Ops 3.
Black Ops 3 is the best that the franchise has ever been. It's going to be a mostly multiplayer-focused video, but I will be talking about campaign.
Campaign sucks. Campaign sucks. I'm just going to say it. Campaign sucks.
And zombies as well in the latter half of the video.
How's Drifter's volume? It's quiet for me. Is it good for you?
Is that I think Treyarch took the design philosophies that made Black Ops 2 so good and perfected them in Black Ops 3. And the perfect analogy to another game is I think Halo 3 is superior to Halo 2. Even though Halo 2 is wildly more innovative and ahead of its time, Halo 3 is just those ideas perfected.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Let's start off this Black Ops 3 discussion with the most important thing in any Call
I loved
of Duty
Halo
game,
3.
which is the weapons.
Okay, true story. I actually was into Halo before I was into Call of Duty. I played Halo 3 also. Why is this like, okay, it's 1080p. It just looks a little grainy. Anyway, I was into Halo 3 before I played Call of Duty. I played a crap load of Halo 3, and then I got into Call of Duty World at War. So yeah, I was Halo before I was COD.
Black Ops 3 and balance were some of the absolute best that I've ever seen in any Call of Duty game. Every single weapon in the game, balance-wise, had a distinct niche in which it excelled. A certain map, a certain scenario, a certain play style. There was a weapon that would fit that.
So the one thing I disagree with that in Black Ops 3 is the high caliber rounds. High caliber rounds were game breaking, and it was really the only thing I could think of offhand that was like
every weapon was usable in most situations. There were very few outliers of weapons that were extremely strong or extremely weak and could not be used. Most of the guns in the game were very general. They were very fun. You could use them on most of the maps. And of the available optics in the game, the vast majority of them were very clear and easy to use. So when I was aiming down sights, I could always tell what was going on.
It was Black Ops 4.
Of the iron sights, the majority of the weapons had very clear,
easy
to use iron sights. So that was always
I didn't think of that, but that's
option,
true.
Thank goodness. The recoil in Black Ops 3 was highly predictive instead of random.
Very
Some
easy.
Call of Duty games lean very heavily on random recoil or recoil within certain bounds. Now, Black Ops 3 definitely did have this system. It had a randomness to it, but
Okay,
not a
just
lot.
watching this gameplay, we need to go back and play Black Ops 3. This game's freaking awesome, and I forgot about it, and I love this game.
Not as much as previous Call of Duty games, and not as much as a variety of Call of Duty games that came afterwards. The recoil was mostly predictive, meaning that it was masterable, meaning that once you got a feel for the gun, you would know how it would perform in every scenario and with every set of attachments, which was great because every weapon design-wise had a unique feel and personality to it. Each gun
Agreed.
had its own character, so to speak.
That's very, very rare in Call of Duty. Like, go to Call of Duty Vanguard and pick up a gun. 90% it's going to feel exactly the same as all the other guns. It's a very good point for weapon-wise.
From the sound effects the weapons had, to the design, to the colors, the animations, the gas ejections, almost everything about them just felt right. It felt sane. It felt normal. It made sense to me. And I feel like Treyarch hit the absolute perfect balance of weapons that are futuristic, but still somewhat recognizable. I think the guns in this game were definitely unrealistic, and they were, in a sense, cartoony, but they were cartoony in a way that still appealed to me. It made sense within the lore and within the aesthetics of the game that I was
I agree,
playing.
it was kind of
Like you would
cartoony.
say, Warframe isn't a hyper-realistic game by any means, but most of the things in it make sense inside of its own aesthetic. So for me,
And like,
Black Ops 3,
that's the plus side of doing a futuristic Call of Duty game, is you can do those kind of more unrealistic things, like the map Micro, for example, which is a freaking awesome map, and it still makes sense within the lore and still makes sense within the story without being just out there off the
guns
walls.
felt very cool instead of silly. I think weapon cosmetics were top notch for this time. There's a lot of tiny customizations to guns, special versions you could unlock.
All
The
through
camos
supply
were
drops.
great. On the
Wonder if he
topic of
talks about that.
camos, I still think the Dark Matter camo is one of the best looking camos in Call of Duty history, especially given how old that camo is and how well it has held up to modern times. And most of the weapons in the game were still hit scans. Thank goodness. This was before Treyarch and Infinity Ward and everybody else moved off to projectile-based weapons for Battle Royale. So they were all hit scans, which for the mostly close quarters combat nature of the game made perfect sense. There were a few anomalous weapons, especially in DLC that would come that were projectiles of some sort.
The Frisbee disc shooter. I can't. D13 sector? D13 sector. That's what it was called.
Revisiting this topic of how you unlocked weapons in a section near the end about flaws, because no game is perfect. Next up, I wanted to talk about movement and then about the combat loop of the game.
Movement is so good in this game.
Do not like advanced movement games, and to be honest with you, most gamers in general seem to
Drifter's gone. I can
struggle
move
with 3D
myself.
movement FPSs. If you look back at the last several 3D movement FPS releases, off the top of my head, the Finals is the most recent one. There's a lot of gamers that just don't really like that. They do seem to
like the
enjoy
Finals.
boots on the ground combat more. So I understand
think underrated
that 3D
game.
movement is not everybody's niche, and I can respect that. However, it most certainly is my niche, and I absolutely love 3D movement games. So when it comes to 3D movement or advanced movement in Call of Duty games,
I think Black Ops 3 did 3D movement correct. I think that out of any Call of Duty game, you had Advanced Warfare with the pogo stick movement. You had then you had Black Ops 3, which had this like really smooth wall running, sliding movement. And then you had Infinite Warfare, which just copied it. And at that point, people were just sick of it. And yes, we are going to be doing gunfight tournaments later.
I think Black Ops 3 did it better than any other COD game. For comparison, Advanced Warfare was first up, so they had a lot to sort of figure out. Those was mostly boost jumps and boost slides. It was very linear, very jerky. You could fling yourself really fast in one direction, and then you would kind of have to stop. Infinite Warfare, which came after Black Ops 3, felt clunkier than Black Ops 3 in my opinion, and kind of sadly copied the system from Black Ops 3. It didn't really innovate or do anything new. I guess
Yeah, this is what I was literally just saying.
Broken, but I think Black Ops 3 had this beautiful balance of abilities. You had a limited amount of wall running time and the ability to jump, boost, or change your direction. And
the cool thing about this is all of the maps were designed in a way where if you could use your movement. My capture card just glitched. It does it all the time. Your movements was designed in a way with the maps where you could almost get around the entire map using this crazy movement. There was that one, I believe it was called Redwood, where you could basically run around the entire map on the walls, but you had to use your boost perfectly and you had to have the right perk. And just how well that's designed with the movement is so impressive.
Midair. However, it came with a little meter that counted down right underneath your crosshairs that would let you know how much boost and juice you would have left before resetting, so it would help you manage your
The Ewok map, correct,
I
yeah.
think this was the first Call of Duty game to ever have water combat, at least that I can recall. And no, the one mission in Call of Duty Ghost where you swim around underwater and deal with fish AI doesn't really count because it wasn't multiplayer. It was a novelty. It was a thing they put together really fast, like playing.
I don't remember having to kill sharks, and I need to go back and play Call of Duty Ghost.
To be fair, was really fun. But Black Ops 3 had proper water combat for multiplayer, and all of this blended together really well.
Yeah, that's true. That was the first game to do that.
Jump off of a balcony, change directions in midair to plant your feet on a wall, hit a wall run, jump off of that to dip out of a gunfight into the water, and then continue your gunfight either under the water, if the person you were fighting chased you under, or shoot up out of the water at them. All of this with guns up pretty much the entire time and very limited disruptions to your combat ability.
So this is what I'm talking about. Look at how you can get around the map
and move as much as you wanted in this game. And it was an unprecedented freedom of movement that Call of Duty had never seen before. Of course, on top of this, you had your standard sprinting, crouching, proning, mantling, knee sliding, or boost knee sliding in this.
Okay, I'm going to say an unpopular opinion here. I do not like the water combat in Warzone right now. I don't like that you can only use your pistol in it. I don't like it.
The incredible thing is that it all
I like that you can swim.
Worked. It all meshed together really well. To me, it didn't feel janky. It didn't feel rushed or sloppy in any way. It felt very professional, smooth, and polished, much like the original Titanfall release and like Titanfall 2. And
Titanfall 2 is so good.
All of the maps in the game were designed with this mechanic in mind. Each map offered a variety of obvious, with big labels and arrows, a few hidden, and a few very advanced sort of secret 3D movement routes so that you could engage however you wanted. And it also greatly increased the skill ceiling of the game. This was the time when I was playing on the 4-paddle scuff, and I was using all 4 paddles to do crazy stuff all the time. I absolutely loved it.
When Advanced Warfare came out and they introduced the pogo stick movement, if you didn't have a scuff, you were at such a big disadvantage.
Because of this, I feel that the combat loop in Black Ops 3 is actually very tight.
Gooey Grandpa said, is Black Ops 6 going to be similar to Cold War as far as guns from that era? I believe so. I've seen some things like certain red dots that people saw in the trailers that weren't like that, but it should be close.
In the game, it's very easy to respawn, move fast, find a fight in an area that you want to be in, and there wasn't a lot of boring downtime restrictions or limitations on your abilities. The game probably had the most amount of gunfight of any Call of Duty game that I've ever played, and I think that's a great thing. Moving on to the next thing I love about Black Ops 3, let's talk about the maps. I think Black Ops 3 had some of the most beautiful and best designed maps in Call of Duty history.
Yeah.
Almost every single
I don't think that's an example of one, but
work of art in terms of aesthetics. They all fit in so well within the game, and Treyarch absolutely nailed the coloring of the maps. Call of Duty games are kind of notorious for being 50 shades of brown, gray, sand, dust, depressing, bleached colors, washed, hard to see enemies. You probably heard that mostly of Infinity Ward games. And Black Ops 2 was a huge departure and improvement from this. So was Black Ops 1, honestly. But I feel like Black Ops 3 did it best. They went the exact opposite route of most Call of Duty games.
It's funny because watching the gameplay, Black Ops 3 doesn't even look like a Call of Duty game almost.
Not only was this much more pleasant to look at, to see the actual color,
like it looks cartoony,
and even sometimes purple, but it also made identifying enemies much easier because they didn't blend into the environment very well. After the game had completed its DLC
also, keep in mind,
I would say that Black Ops...
He hasn't said a thing about specialist abilities yet, and I'm very curious to hear what he says about that.
Diverse set of maps in any Call of Duty game. Off the top of my head, we had a map that was a water park, a couple of destroyed cities, jungles, a futuristic Nuketown with robots, the California redwoods. There was a map that was just the floor is lava.
Didn't like that map.
Cryogenic facilities, skyscrapers, haunted castles, maps in a futuristic city where you
Didn't
could
like that
hijack
map
mechs
either.
and do mech battles.
The mech battles were dumb.
My personal favorite was Micro.
Everyone loved
map
Micro.
Where you and all the other players are shrunk down to about 1 inch tall, and you have to fight each other on a picnic table with
and like
giant
so many
ants,
Easter
and
eggs,
taking cover behind soda cans,
like
and wall running off of
percolas,
cheese,
like you're just
stuff
there.
like that. On top of all of this variety, most of these maps also played very well. As I mentioned before, most of them were designed with advanced movement and wall running in mind.
And I think that's where Black Ops 4 got a little screwy, because I think they designed most of those maps with advanced movement in mind, and then we're just like, yeah, we're not doing it.
Of the maps had a dozen different ways to navigate any choke point, any obstacle, or any type of engagement. There were obvious wall run paths, there were secret ones, there were really advanced ones that maybe the developers didn't want you to do, but they did find it very fun and allowed to stay in the game. There were so many unique ways to engage with people and fight with people. I thought it was just brilliant. And that's why when I did my review of the best Treyarch maps in Call of Duty history, a disproportional amount of them were from Black Ops 3, because Black Ops 3 had the best maps for their combat system, which was advanced movement. They were colorful, they were beautiful, they were fun, they were funny, they were wild. It was all the things that I would want in a Call of Duty game. I think Black Ops 3 had some of the best character designs in the entire series.
I hope he talks about this. The character designs were very good. All of them had backstories, good backstories. And then there was literally, so there was black market things that you could get for each character and change the way that your character looked, which, by the way, this is the way to do it. Have less operators, but more customization for those operators. Does that make sense? Less operators, more customization. All right. There was also challenges for each individual operator. So you could go in and you could see here, to unlock the Hitman variant for Spectre, get 400 kills while playing as Spectre. Awesome. And then the later ones would all have to do with like your abilities. So get like 3 double or triple kills with the Scythe. Awesome.
Absolutely necessary, because it was the first Call of Duty game to have hero shooter abilities. They took cues from Destiny and Overwatch, and also took cues from their developers to design the characters to have very unique silhouettes. That way, no matter what lighting level or what distance you were from looking at an enemy character, no matter what skins they were, their overall body shape was distinct and would let you know what their moveset was likely to be. That means when you see a person...
That's another really good point. So based off of what your character looked like, really good point, Drifter. Oh, also, okay, I shouldn't have moved my camera back. Yeah, that's something back in the day, whatever weapon you were using. So if you're using a sniper rifle in Call of Duty, your character would be wearing a ghillie suit. In this game, it was around your specialist abilities. So you would know what abilities someone would have based off of how they looked.
Distance, maybe if you can't tell specifically what skin they are, you can see the outline of the character and you know, okay, that's Ruin. Ruin might have a big Ruin slam to throw down, so I need to watch out for that guy and keep my distance. That's what they tried to do, and in my opinion, they succeeded. I think the character design team did a fantastic job of this, and it worked exactly the way they wanted it to. It was very easy to tell who you were fighting against and what their moveset was likely to be. Beyond that, the characters themselves were unique and fun to play as. All of the multiplayer characters or heroes had a unique backstory that would be unveiled through multiplayer voice lines, and that backstory would ultimately elevate the character and the use of their abilities. For example, Seraph is a Singaporean triad enforcer who lost her arm and was given a cybernetic, much stronger arm, so she's the only person that can handle the hand cannon, the Annihilator. That
see, again, that's that lore, the backstory, and I did a ton of videos on this back in the day.
Military combat body and has a powerful minigun weapon because he is designed to very literally be an agent of death. Or Prophet is one of the very few characters to know that he's stuck in a simulation and actually managed to hack the simulation to go back in time like Tracer and alter various things on the map. And I didn't just bury the lead there. The multiplayer also had its own plot, such that all of the characters were copies of other people's brains, fully conscious, not entirely aware that they're stuck in a simulation. And you, as the multiplayer gamer, are playing through these AI avatars.
I miss these abilities, man.
Stuck fighting each other.
Like, I know Black Ops 4 ruined specialist abilities because they were just so prevalent and kind of broke the game. But back in this game, you would get like 1 or 2 of these abilities a game, and they were so good. I missed
over
that.
and over and over again for all eternity. There's even a character, the assassin one, that was responsible for putting them into the simulation. It was such a neat fact to add to multiplayer, just a little cherry on top that if you pay attention and listen to their voice lines, you'll realize that they're all sort
I did a ton of videos
AI
back on that
remnants of
in the
regular
day.
people that are stuck trying to figure out why they're constantly fighting each other. I also think that the hero abilities were not bad or annoying. Okay, well, there were a few that were a little bit annoying, but honestly, they were much better designed than most of the contemporary games' hero shooter abilities.
Yeah.
And better designed than most of the games that came after Black Ops 3. They were exemplary for their time, and most of them were quite fun. I personally enjoyed playing Prophet so that I could glitch back in time and just teleport backwards.
Yes, that was
I
a cool
enjoyed playing
ability.
the assassin character so much. I think it's clipped by the camera, but I have the Ripper, the blade thing behind me.
Oh, that's actually cool.
Directly above my head, perfectly cut off. I have like a life-size replica that glows. It was like getting old Commando Pro kills. I loved ruin slamming. I loved doing
I didn't like
lot of
ruin
things
slamming.
with the
That one was
character.
boring to me.
Bow and arrow was very, very fun too. And the tactical abilities were the ones that had a tendency to get more annoying, such as invisibility, the giant flashbang on Firebreak, extra armor. But ultimately, most people
kinetic
gravitated toward
armor,
the
yeah.
weapons, and even these tactical abilities did have some degree of counterplay, so I didn't get frustrated by them very often. On the topic of counterplay and things that are frustrating, I think that one of the weaker parts of Black Ops 3 is that the score streaks in the game actually weren't very innovative. Most of them were just
This is actually the game where I think score streaks stopped being innovative. Like, have a look at these streaks. I know I'm covering HCXD, UAV, and care package. Those are normal. All of these, the Hellstorm was a cool version of the Hellstorm where you could shoot multiple ones, I believe, in this game. And the Raps was kind of cool. It was like exploding dogs. But other than that, meh. GI unit, it was interesting. It's like a dog with a gun that's a little bit bigger. And Mothership was big. But like as a whole, I think after this game, score streaks just started to get more and more boring.
Skins from Black Ops 2. For example, the Raps, or the big spiky balls that would chase you around and blow up, are literally just dogs from Black Ops 2 and 1 reskin.
Exploding dogs.
There's a hover RCXD instead of a regular one. The Hellfire missile or cluster missile is identical to what it was in Black Ops.
Yeah, so you could
2,
shoot
just
beforehand.
reskin a
So it
little
wasn't the
bit.
Trinity
The big
missile, but you could have
automated
two
robot
shots
isn't that
essentially.
different than the one that you had in Black Ops as well. And again, not super innovative, not very creative, but also
Like from everything we've heard based off of leaks for Black Ops 6, their streaks are boring too.
very serviceable, and importantly, most of these had really good counterplay. There were ways to avoid certain streaks. There were ways to hide from them, either detection or line of sight. You could shoot most of them, even with your big character abilities. Like you could break out Seraph's Annihilator and just drop score streaks around the map.
True.
Same with Prophet's gun. So there were a lot of ways to drop the score streaks, including the little black hat tacticals that would let you take over or disable devices. And probably the coolest score streak in the game, and one of the coolest ones I've seen in Call of Duty in a very long time, was the Mothership. This giant
there it is.
behemoth of a
This thing was
leviathan
huge.
of a ship that would come onto the map, and your teammates could jump on the guns of the ship and continue to rain down fire on the map along with you. I don't think there's ever
my
been a score
God.
streak quite as devastating or as fun as the Mothership, and even that one had counterplay. It was not
Yeah, you could shoot
insanely hard
certain
to shoot
parts
down,
of
even
the
if it
ship.
was powerful. So on top of all of these specific reasons of why I think Black Ops 3 multiplayer was so good, I'd like to reiterate.
Yeah, see, that's exactly what we were saying before, Bebos, is that with us having these like in the past shooters, you have way more creativity available in futuristic
one of the
games,
reasons
for sure.
that it's good is that all of these pieces fit together really well. The overall package was very smooth, very visually appealing, very unique. They got, they reinvented some things, but left things that weren't broke unfixed. The guns felt right for
There's
the
dudes
movement,
right in front of you there,
felt
bro.
Right for the maps felt right for the gunfights, the HUD, the sights, the UI, the elements, everything, even the character silhouettes. It all meshed together into a whole cohesive, complete package, and it was very easy to tell what was going on at any given time.
Yeah.
I also enjoyed that the skill ceiling for advanced movement was fairly high, but not unapproachably so. It wasn't painfully so. and I just really liked this game. It's the only Call of Duty game that I
Guy just shot down a Hellstorm.
to go for the maximum camo on. In my 20 years of playing Call of Duty, I was never motivated to get the whatever highest level camo is, or prestige, or do anything like that. And I've done in-depth for 10, 15 years. So much testing, so much gameplay, so many events, and I never really cared for gold, diamond, interstellar. But man, I grinded Black Ops 3 Dark Matter. It was really fun. I was really motivated to play, and that says a lot about the game. Lastly, before I wrap up the good section, I wanted to mention campaign and zombies. Briefly, campaign was short and sweet, but I did enjoy it. It's not...
It wasn't that short. I think it was like 5 or 6 hours long, and it sucked.
Well remembered because it's a little bit short, and it's also the most trippy, high concept, and unusual Call of Duty campaign out there because it's simulations and simulations and what is real, and the entire campaign is much more like a precursor to a Black Mirror episode, which is even more relevant today.
I guess.
And I think the campaign had a cool bonus level because after you beat the main campaign, it unlocks a bonus ending like an Avengers Endgame post-credits scenario called, I believe it was called Nightmares. And I can't even talk about what
that wasn't post-credits
because that would spoil the ending of the rest of the campaign, but it adds this massive twist at the end that just gives you a whole new level of understanding about what you just played through.
That wasn't...
Moving along, the zombies experience
Am I wrong?
Generally the best.
The Nightmares mission was not post-credits. That's the mission where you go through Corvus and it's like all like the trippy blue crows and stuff, right? Like that wasn't post-credits. Am I wrong?
It's ever been, and it got off to a bit of a rough
Zombies
start.
was great.
New maps, new bugs, new characters, but by the time the full DLC cycle was completed, it was downright amazing. Off the top of my head, you had a ton of remakes of old maps. There was Ascension, fully fleshed out Dead Ops, Origins, Der Eisendrock, Shadows of Evil, Shangri-La, Shino Numa, Zetsubo no Shima, Moon, Kino der Toten. Finally, I believe you had Revelations near the end. Every map had a ton of Easter eggs and unique available playstyles. Oftentimes you had multi-map Easter eggs that you had to complete an Easter egg on one map and then move to another to unlock the thing to get the final ending. And the Gobblegum system, I'll admit, not very good. Very microtransaction.
I agree
heavy,
with this, and everyone loves Gobblegums.
Yet the players didn't seem to mind because the game that was built around it was still excellent. When it comes to zombies, I just loved replaying the new updated old maps with the old characters and the new characters to get the blood, to get the new endings and affect the multiverse in different ways. And in my mind, Revelations is still truly the official ending of Call of Duty Zombies. That's where I just like cut my little slice of the cake and say this is all the story that I want. And there was so much zombies content that it was basically a game unto itself. And as I do the commentary, I think I'm remembering that Activision actually sold Black Ops 3 Zombies Resurrection, maybe with Z's. I can't remember the title, but I think
that's not it.
Black Ops 3 Zombies just as its own game, as its own pack, and the community was super into it. And I remember the insane amount of hype for Easter egg hunting and zombies and unlocking zombies camos.
Zombies was huge back then. The whole Black Ops 3, the game was massive.
Now, as great of a time as I had with Black Ops 3, not everybody did, and I would be remiss not to mention.
Let's hear the negative stuff.
More serious flaws here near the end of the video, because no game,
supply drops.
No matter how much
here comes supply drops. Get ready for supply drops.
By the community is without flaws, and Black Ops 3 has a couple of big ones. Let's start off with the #1 biggest flaw, which was that this game was price gouging to the maximum, or at least
on microtransactions.
Black Ops 4 came out. Black Ops 3 was a full paid game with pre-order bonuses and special editions. It had microtransactions on top of that, more specifically loot boxes.
Oh, you got a melee weapon
known as supply drops
and a weapon. What a freaking! Oh, he used the special bundle.
Zombies.
That's why.
And if you wanted new guns, you had to get them with the supply drops. It had everything except a battle pass, which didn't exist at the time, and Black Ops 4 would have that. And the paid DLC model for new maps was pretty normal at the time, but it was already starting to get annoying and people were pushing back on it. Where things really started getting wild is supply drops. They were fine at first, and then suddenly the only way you could get the new weapons was via supply drop. Getting the DLC or paying a fixed price or doing a challenge didn't do it. You had to get lucky and get them via...
You know what? They could have kept supply drops longer if they didn't get greedy. As soon as they added weapons, I guess right away they added weapons to it. Like Advanced Warfare had, never mind. They started too aggressive with it.
Each. But as the game continued, there was more loot, more little gun pieces, more little armor pieces, more camos, more customizations and stickers and stuff. and it became more and more expensive to unlock the new weapons.
Is it weird that this doesn't have audio yet? I can hear exactly what the supply drops sound like.
So much so that late in the game's life cycle, it could easily cost 500, and if you're unlucky, maybe even $1,000.
Dude, I still Advanced Warfare. You're saying the BAL was super rare, and you're talking about the Obsidian Steed in Advanced Warfare. I know the exact gun you're talking about. To this day, I still don't have the HBRA3 Insanity. Still.
Just to get the new guns. And I knew some people that would drop like $2,000 every time there was an update just to get everything.
YouTubers did.
At a
I didn't,
point,
but
as a full-time Call of Duty YouTuber, it wasn't even financially viable for me to unlock new weapons to make in-depth episodes or reviews about them. I would lose money doing that. And Black Ops 3 didn't invent supply drops. To be fair, Advanced Warfare did, and I think it was an Activision top-down directive to have something like this. But it did farm more money from them than any other game before or after. Advanced Warfare was more fair, Infinite Warfare was more fair, and it created this community on YouTube. This was like the peak supply drop opening days, where people would just...
I feel like Advanced Warfare was peak supply drop opening days.
Spend $1,000 and sit there for the next hour opening the drops slowly, one at a time.
So true story, back in Advanced Warfare, I would make supply drop opening videos, but I wouldn't pay for them. I would save them up, and normally you could only collect 3 at a time, but I found a bug where I could collect like 10 at a time, but it would take longer to earn them. So I would do this and make videos out of it, and it would take me much longer to unlock these supply drops than it did if I didn't do that, but I did it to make videos. True story.
Viewership was stupid high on these. I don't know why. I guess people just love gambling. But they would stream these openings and just spend gobs of money, and would ultimately encourage their fans to do the same thing, even though it was an unethical model. And I just felt like the entire community was being farmed for every penny that it was worth on every level that it could be. The situation was so bad that the community rebelled and did a black market blackout or boycott.
I believe that was in Black Ops 4 that people did that, right?
And it didn't really change anything, except it did make a whole bunch of Call of Duty hate channels very popular. Some of those channels managed to ride the supply drop hate all the way into today, even.
Into SBMM hate.
The hype of just hating on those supply drops. And that is, in my opinion, the most meaningful flaw with Black Ops 3. But there's several others that I would like to briefly mention. Second of all, the 3D movement was very hard for some people to master.
Yeah, you needed a scuff controller.
Some people away from the game. On console, I felt like I needed the 4-button scuff to play. On PC, it wasn't so bad. But on console, I felt like a 2-button scuff would barely get me by, but a 4-button scuff to have all this extra like crazy crab claw holding the controller thing going on was absolutely necessary to manage all the jumps and movements and things. And if you had a basic controller...
And I think it's going to be like that with Black Ops 6 with the Omni movement.
Claw, which is terrible for your fingers. It was going to be hard to keep up. So there may have been an equipment difference for my level of enjoyment. I do not think the game had the greatest spawns in the world. It really did. I gotta be honest.
I don't remember the spawns, honestly.
Could have improved those. And there were a number of unusual, buggy interactions, most often between the Scorestreaks with counterplay and the player abilities that were new to the franchise. Also, a lot of the zombies maps would launch with bugs or timers that locked the Easter egg or some sort of problem, and the zombies experience is one that usually improved over time and was quite rougher at the game launch and often rough at the launch of the DLC itself. So all of that above is why I think Black Ops 3, minus the flaws we just talked about, is the greatest Call of Duty game ever made. It's definitely the Call of Duty game that I played the most and that I had the most fun.
Greatest Call of Duty game ever made. Yeesh. Multiplayer, I could get on board with that. Zombies is pretty good too, but that campaign is just so bad.
I advanced levels further in this game than any other Call of Duty game over the last 20 years. I got the maximum camo, prestige to max, spent gobs of money to buy DLC weapons, which is something I really should.
Like Black Ops 2 had good zombies, decent zombies, I should say.
And after all the years,
good multiplayer and good campaign.
I have not played a Call of Duty game that has had a more complete package than Black Ops 3. Great campaign, great zombies.
Not a great campaign.
Great multiplayer, great DLC cycle.
Does anyone in the comments say anything about the campaign? Blame Truth. Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 3 are the best in entire franchise. Nobody's saying anything about the campaign, eh? Huh.
About the game except it was just expensive to play. But I still absolutely loved it. Guys, that is my opinion about the best Call of Duty game of all time. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you
That was
learned
good,
something
Drifter.
useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Or if you disagree with me, let me know what your favorite Call of Duty game is down there in the comments below. Drifter out.
Yeah, Black Ops 3 was goated, that is for sure. And I don't think we will ever get a game like that again. In a way where I do not think that we will have a futuristic Call of Duty game like that anytime soon. I would be really, really shocked. And yeah, it adds a lot to the game that they can be more creative with it, have more freedom with it. But I don't see that happening again anytime soon. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think, was Black Ops 3 that good? Everyone in chat right now is saying Black Ops 2. So let me ask it in a different way. Anyone in chat, do you think Black Ops 3 is better than Black Ops 2? Because I think the multiplayer is. But that's just me.